Approximately 2 lakh years ago, humans first discovered the fire. They may have witnessed fire even before that in the form of wildfires caused by the sun or the lightning strike. But 2 lakh years ago, humans learned to control and use fire for cooking and other stuff. Since then, energy has been an integral part of our lives. Now in 21st century, we are more dependent on energy than ever. Energy is not only useful for your homes and offices, but today it also influences world politics and the world trade. It has become the most useful political weapon of our century. Studying about energy teaches us more about international relationships than anything else. So in this video, we are going to take a look at the whole energy system of the 21st century, its pros, cons, limitations, and what would be the future of energy. I have been working on this topic for past 3 months, reading books, doing research and studying statistics, and I have tried my best to include all the aspects of our energy needs: sources, consumption, production, politics and trade. Everything about the energy coming up. Hi guys, this is Prateek and you are watching Eclectic. Here we talk about our past, present and the future. Right now, our world consumes 25 times more energy than it used to consume just 2 centuries ago. Until 1800, more than 99% of world's energy was produced by burning wood and organic matter. All these 21st century sources of energy we know are barely discovered within the last 2 centuries. Our expansion into oil consumption did not begin until around 1870. 2 decades later, it was followed by natural gas and hydroelectricity. By 1900, coal consumption had increased significantly. Coal was being used to produce almost half of the global energy. After World War II unleashed the nuclear power, the world governments tried to find peaceful ways of utilizing nuclear power, and we started using nuclear power to produce electricity. Until 1965, North America, Europe and Eurasia collectively consumed more than 80% of world's energy. But now that trend is rapidly changing, most dramatically in the Asia Pacific, where total consumption has increased more than 12-fold over this period. We can tell a lot about a country by looking at its energy consumption. This is the list of top 10 energy consuming countries. They consume 60% of the world's energy. Among these 10 countries, 4 are developing countries and remaining 6 are the developed ones. Then there is energy per capita consumption. Do you ever think about how much energy you consume all the time? TV, laptop, smartphone, fan, AC, car, cooking appliances and dozens of other stuff, including watching this video on YouTube right now. For almost everything, we need energy. In the last few decades, China's per capita energy consumption has grown by nearly 250%. For India, it increased by 50% and for Brazil by 38%. Now some developing countries from Asia Pacific may have started consuming more energy, but their energy consumption per capita remains relatively low. An average American still consumes 10 times more energy than the average Indian, 4 to 5 times more that of Brazilian, and 3 times more than a Chinese person. This is the growth of regional energy use from 1990 to 2008. In 2015, the whole world consumed more than 150,000 terawatt hours of energy. Many of the light bulbs in our homes consume 100 watts of energy. 1 terawatt can power about 10 billion 100-watt light bulbs at the same time. So now you know how much energy we all are consuming. Now the question is, where are we getting all this energy from? Here is a short and quick introduction of all the energy sources, from the oldest ones to the newest ones, their origin, how they work, their pros, cons, limitations, their future and everything. Solar and wind energy. These two renewable energy sources are the oldest forms of energy on the planet. Rays emitted from the sun are responsible for sustaining all life forms on the planet, whereas the use of wind power dates back to 5000 BCE. Ancient sailors used wind power for giving desired directions to their boats. Wind is also a type of solar energy. We have wind flowing all around the earth because of the sun. The sun warms up our planet, but because of the surface irregularities and its rotation, the earth does not heat uniformly. These variances in temperature also cause irregularities in air pressure, and air molecules migrate from areas of high air pressure to areas of low air pressure, and that's how we get the wind. In the year 1954, the first solar cell capable of converting enough of sun's energy into power to run everyday electrical equipment was invented in the United States. This invention made solar a mainstream energy producing technology. Today, there are over 75 solar thermal power stations around the world. All of them combined have a capacity of generating up to 5000 megawatts of energy, which is enough to power 1.7 million homes during peak hours. Despite the extraordinary historic evolution of solar technology, solar energy's contribution in generating world's electricity remains very low because development of solar technology has remained very slow and many people are still reluctant to use it. But why is that? We all are well aware of the advantages of solar, but all is not well. There are some downsides to the solar technology which are limiting its potential. First and foremost, there are not enough batteries to store solar energy for our cloudy days when we don't get enough sunlight. Now you would ask, why aren't we manufacturing more batteries? The problem is money. Manufacturing batteries is very expensive. In addition, battery life is very limited. So basically the cost of storage is too high. Hypothetically, if we want to meet 80% of America's electricity demand with solar and wind, then it would require a huge battery storage system which would cost more than $2.5 trillion. Whoa! That amount is equivalent to the entire GDP of a country like India. Second problem, solar and wind energy sources can take up to 50 to 60 times more space than fossil fuels. It would take around 45 square miles of photovoltaic panels to be able to produce the same amount of electricity as that of a single multi-reactor nuclear power plant. So do the math yourself. But hey, there is always a room for new ideas and innovations. If you have anything in your mind, feel free to share in the comment section below. Despite these hurdles, many countries are installing significant solar power capacity into their electrical grids to produce clean energy. China is leading the world in solar PV generation, with the total installed capacity exceeding 100 gigawatts. China is the world's largest market for both photovoltaics and solar thermal energy. And in the last 5 years, more than half of the total PV additions came from China. India is also making significant efforts to promote solar power. India has the world's third fastest expanding solar power program, next only to China and USA. Still, solar energy sector needs to increase its pace of development to become a major energy source. Another old form of energy is the biomass or bioenergy. What exactly is the biomass? In simple words, it is energy that is developed from organic materials such as plants, woods, animals, crop residues, and many other byproducts from a variety of agriculture processes. Biomass has been used as a source of heat energy since man first discovered fire. Until the beginning of the 19th century, biomass was the predominant fuel. Many people around the world still burn wood as their primary source of heat during the winter. There are basically three prominent ways of getting energy from biomass. First, and the obvious one, by burning it. The second, by extracting methane gas. When biomass rots, it produces methane gas. Methane gas can be used to make natural gas, which is common source of energy. This means that when garbage rots in landfills, that stinky gas can be used for energy. The third, producing biofuels. Some crops like corn, sugarcane and algae can be converted into a biofuel called ethanol. Ethanol can be used instead of gasoline in many cars. Another type of biofuel is biodiesel. It can be made from vegetable oils and animal fats. Biodiesel can be used as heating oil and also to power cars and buses. The use of biofuels such as ethanol has been around for some time as well. It was used as lamp fuel in the United States in 1800s. Even the first car model T Fords also used ethanol for fuel until 1908. Recently, biomass and biofuels have become popular as an alternative to fossil fuels such as gasoline. Biofuels are fairly easy to transport. They have decent energy densities and can be used with some modifications to existing technology and infrastructure. So is the bioenergy the future of energy? Not really. Biomass energy has a drawback that everyone hates. Air pollution if we burn wood and other biomass materials, and as far as biofuels are concerned, they also have some serious limitations. Plants which can be used to produce biofuels require an ideal environment, good amount of water supply and a particular soil type. The problem is not every region has all these facilities, so the quantity and quality of biofuels can be different in different regions. Biofuels also require heavy use of fertilizers, which can lead to water pollution. Apart from all these, there are also one major technological problem. The engines we have today are designed for petroleum based fuel. These engines perform better when we use petroleum based fuel. Using biofuels in such engines can affect their performance. If we want to increase the use of biofuels, we first need to make them compatible with the existing infrastructure and technology. And for that, some creative human beings have come up with an idea of drop-in biofuels. They can be defined as liquid biohydrocarbons that are functionally equivalent to petroleum fuels, and they are fully compatible with existing petroleum infrastructure. These drop-in biofuels do not require any modification in the engines of our cars and other vehicles. Right in front of you are some of the examples of drop-in biofuels. Scientists are still working on various chemical processes to make biofuels as efficient as the petroleum-based fuels. If you want to know more about those processes, visit the Wikipedia page of biofuels. Right now, many countries are actively participating in the research on biofuels. The world leaders in biofuel development and usage are Brazil, the United States, France, Sweden and Germany. Russia also has 22% of world's forest, and it is a big biomass supplier. UK has a goal for itself to produce 10% of energy used in UK rail and road transport from the biofuels by 2025. If UK achieves this feat, it will be equivalent of replacing 4.3 million tons of fossil fuels each year. While the progress in bioenergy sector is still ongoing, let's also have a look at two minor renewable energy sources of 21st century: geothermal and the marine energy. Geothermal energy is the energy that is produced from beneath the earth. It was used during ancient times for bathing and space heating. It is clean, sustainable and environmental friendly. Here is how it works. High temperatures are produced continuously inside the Earth's crust by the slow decay of radioactive particles. So hot rocks present below the Earth heat up the water and then it produces steam. The steam is then captured that helps to move turbines. The rotating turbines then power the generators. Geothermal energy can be used by residential unit or on a large scale by an industrial application. Geothermal power does not require any type of fuel and is therefore immune to fuel cost fluctuation. Today, geothermal energy is used commercially in over 70 countries. However, its contribution in the world energy production is very insignificant. But some experts believe that geothermal has the potential to meet 3 to 5% of global energy demand by 2050. With economic incentives, it is estimated that by the end of the 21st century, it will be possible to meet 10% of global energy demand with geothermal energy. If you are above 20 years of age, I don't think you would be alive to see the geothermal energy becoming the major energy source. The biggest disadvantage with geothermal energy is that it can only be produced at selected sites. The largest group of geothermal power plants in the world is located at the Geysers, a geothermal field in California, United States. Now the another insignificant player of the energy world, the marine energy, also called as the ocean energy. This energy form is carried by ocean waves, tides, salinity and ocean temperature differences. The movement of water in the world's oceans creates a vast store of kinetic energy or energy in motion. Some of this energy can be harnessed to generate electricity to power homes, transport and industries. Marine energy is relatively new sector of renewable energy, with most of its projects still in the initial phase of development. Only time will tell how it all plays out. So far, we have discussed renewable energy sources like solar, wind, bioenergy, geothermal and marine. But all of them combined contribute less than 7% in the world's electricity generation, and we cannot call it a success. So let's talk about the most successful renewable energy source, the hydropower. Hydropower or hydroelectricity refers to the conversion of energy from flowing water into electricity. It is considered a renewable energy source because the sun constantly renews the water cycle. Historically, one of the first uses of hydropower was for mechanical milling, such as grinding grains. Today, modern hydro plants produce electricity using turbines and generators, where mechanical energy is created when moving water spins rotors on a turbine. This turbine is connected to an electromagnetic generator, which produces electricity when turbine spins. Hydropower is an abundant, low-cost source of power despite high upfront building costs. It is also a flexible and reliable source of electricity compared to other renewable options, as it can be stored for later use. Dammed reservoirs can also help with flood control, be a reliable water supply, and can be used for recreational purposes. However, there are some concerns with hydropower, particularly large dam facilities. Damming river has a significant impact on the regional ecosystem by flooding upstream landscapes, disrupting habitats for wildlife, blocking fish passages, and often displacing local communities. In addition, dam failures can be catastrophic, further disrupting landscapes and claiming the lives of those living downstream. Nonetheless, hydropower is the largest contributor of all renewable energy sources when it comes to electricity generation. 9 of the world's top 10 renewable electricity producers are primarily hydroelectric. One is wind. In 2015, hydropower generated 16.6% of the world's total electricity, and that is a significant contribution. Hydropower is produced in 150 countries, with the Asia Pacific region generating 32% of the global hydropower, according to a survey done in the year 2015. China is the largest hydroelectricity producer as of now. One thing is pretty clear. The future of hydroelectricity is very bright. We have not yet used its full potential. The technical potential for hydropower development around the world is much greater than the actual production. The percent of potential hydropower capacity that has not been developed is as following. Due to the political realities of new reservoirs in Western countries, economic limitations in the third world countries, and the lack of transmission system in undeveloped areas, in a rough calculation, 25% of the remaining technically exploitable potential can be developed before 2050. And according to some experts, majority of that development is going to happen in the Asia Pacific region. Now that being said, let's move on to the third most important source of energy, the nuclear power. In the World War II, the whole world witnessed the destruction that can be done using nuclear power. Therefore, after World War II, world governments tried to find peaceful ways of utilizing nuclear power and finally found out a way to generate electricity by using nuclear fission reactions. Nuclear power is the use of nuclear reactions that release nuclear energy to generate heat, which most frequently is then used in steam turbines to produce electricity in a nuclear power plant. Nuclear power can be obtained from nuclear fission, nuclear decay, and nuclear fusion reactions. Presently, the vast majority of electricity from nuclear power is produced by nuclear fission of uranium and plutonium. Nuclear power generates around 11% of the world's electricity. There are about 444 nuclear reactors in 35 countries, and about 70 new reactors are under construction. Nuclear energy is one of the most cleanest, most efficient, and most available energy sources of power on Earth. But still, the growth of nuclear energy sector has been stagnating in the last few decades, and that is because of the two factors, fear and risk. Let's talk about the fears first. There are two fears associated with the nuclear technology. The first one is the development of nuclear weapons. After World War II, nuclear technology has slowly evolved as a means of generating electricity, but it has always been intimately connected with nuclear weapons technology. It is impossible to develop nuclear weapons without having access to reactor technology. The Nuclear Proliferation Treaty that aims to spread nuclear reactor technology without spreading nuclear weapons has not been a success, because it is very hard to distinguish a secret nuclear weapons program from the peaceful use of nuclear technology. In the last 40 years, 5 countries have developed nuclear weapons with the help of nuclear technology. The second is the fear of possible disaster. 2 times in the history, nuclear power plants leaked significant amount of radiation. In 1986 at Chernobyl, Ukraine, and in 2011 at Fukushima, Japan. Nuclear radiation can cause immediate death or lethal cancer due to radiation. Now, if this is not enough, it also has one environmental risk: the nuclear waste. We have not yet found a permanent solution or a way of dealing with the nuclear waste. Estimates conclude that somewhere between 5 and 10,000 people lost their life in the Chernobyl aftermath, and more than 2.5 million Ukrainians are still struggling with the health problems related to nuclear waste. Want to know more about it? Watch the video made by Vendor Productions on nuclear waste. So, how does the future look like for the nuclear energy? Well, it is very much unpredictable and depends on various countries and their government policies. Right now, France is a big fan of nuclear energy. 75% of France's energy comes from nuclear power plants. France makes nuclear energy look very enticing and profitable for the producers because France is the world's largest net exporter of electricity. Worldwide, there are more than 100 nuclear reactors planned, including 50 under construction. But the investment in the nuclear energy sector is declining. Some countries are favoring nuclear power and some aren't. Germany has adopted policies of moving out of nuclear power and focusing on renewables. At the same time, some Asian countries such as China and India have committed to rapid expansion of nuclear power. Many other countries such as the United Kingdom and the United States have policies in between. Till now we have discussed 7 energy sources, but all of them combined cannot even satisfy 30% of our energy needs as of now. We think that renewables are developing rapidly because technologies like wind, solar and biofuel often make news headlines. But the fact is, we are still heavily dependent on the fossil fuels, coal, oil and natural gas. Despite knowing about harmful environmental effects of fossil fuels, the 20th century saw a rapid 20-fold increase in the use of fossil fuels. And they are here to stay probably till the end of this century, or maybe more than that, because replacing the entire existing energy producing infrastructure is not an easy job. Politicians and activists may love to talk about renewable energy sources, but in today's world, fossil fuels are still king. Just have a look at these two data sets to understand how important they still are. For electricity generation, fossil fuels contribution is more than 60%, and in total energy supply, where we add all forms of energy, they supply around 80% of world's energy. Like all other industries, fossil fuel industry is also good at using 21st century technologies to reach previously unreachable oil and gas reserves, and also to extract shale gas. In addition, they are benefiting from incentives, tax breaks and subsidies given by the government. United States spends around $20 billion on fossil fuels subsidies each year, whereas European Union subsidies are estimated to total 55 billion euros annually. Worldwide, fossil fuels are subsidized at $14.5 billion a day. Yup, that is how much we are spending each day on fossil fuel subsidies. Imagine if we use all that money to subsidize solar, which is cheaper than fossil fuels already in many places even without subsidies. If fossil fuels lose their subsidies while also being hit by a carbon tax which is expected, renewable energy progress would be fantastic. But it is a big if, since the fossil fuel industry is still very strong because they have lobbyists who have good connections with any government office that matters in the world. Energy has emerged as the most useful political weapon of the 21st century.
Talked and talked about the need to end America's century-long addiction to fossil fuels.
Now, for the first time in 65 years, we are a net exporter of energy.
These are the world's top producer of energy. Most of these countries are very good at using energy to dominate others. Russia supplies most of Europe with gas and oil. It has a lot of influence over some European countries because they are dependent on Russia for these energy resources. In the Middle East, Arab countries are good at using oil as a political weapon. Do you ever get this question, why Saudi Arabia has so many American weapons? The answer is oil.
The oil-producing countries of the Arab world decided to use their oil as a political weapon.
Our proposed arms sales to Saudi Arabia will increase the Saudis' ability to withstand the threat from radical Arab states.
Over the past 30 years, The United States has sold over $50 billion worth of military weapons and services to the Saudis, more than we've sold to any nation on earth. Where are the reciprocal acts of friendship?
US is the biggest arms dealer in the world and Saudi Arabia is its #1 customer. If the US somehow decides not to sell weapons to Saudi Arabia, then Saudi Arabia threatens to cut off oil supplies. And everyone knows how much important is oil to US economy. This whole strategy of dominating the world by controlling energy deserves its own video, as this video is already a lengthy one. After spending my 3 months on this research, here are my final conclusive thoughts about energy. Our current energy system emits too much greenhouse gases, which is of course bad for environment. Just 100 companies are responsible for 71% of world's greenhouse gas emission in the last 30 years. All of these companies are fossil fuel producers. If we want to meet our global climate targets and avoid dangerous climate change, the world needs a significant and concerted transition in its energy sources. The transition might take anything from 20 to 50 years for renewable energy to become the primary source of energy on this planet. There is no question of if this happens, only of when this may happen. We can only hope it won't be too late. And as Vaclav Smil perfectly puts it, shifts in energy system have historically been a slow process, particularly when coupled with long-term infrastructure. All the sources and books I have used to make this video are mentioned in the description below. If my work on this channel is providing any value to you, consider subscribing to my channel and sharing my content with your friends and colleagues. And if you are economically well off, consider supporting me economically on patreon.com. All the sources and books I have used to make this video are mentioned in the description below. Check them out. Thank you all very much. See you soon.